So how bad was it, in your humble opinion?
I think it was pretty bad. I mean, all you really have to do as a politician is know your brief, particularly if you're the leader, know your policies, be able to recite your manifesto and be able to kind of be probed a bit on that. And I think to fail even in that department was pretty bad, and it was certainly horrendous listening, all that coughing and kind of the faux sympathy, oh, I've got a bad cold. I mean, it was pretty grim.
And Toby, she herself described it as excruciating. How did you find it to listen to?
It was difficult to listen to. I mean, I think, like many people, I felt quite sorry for her listening to it, and, you know, I felt that, you know, there but for the grace of God, go I, and that kind of thing has happened to me. I've had a brain freeze on the radio before. I was once doing an interview for Radio 4 in Bangor in Wales, and said how ridiculous I thought it was that all road signs in Wales were in Welsh and English, given what a tiny percentage of the Welsh population actually speak Welsh. And afterwards, the studio manager told me that one of their listeners had been driving past at the very moment that I said this, and had stopped and had come into the studio to have it out with me. And I said, well,
but you actually said what you wanted to say, though. I mean, I have to say, I tweeted that once and regretted it. I'll never say it again. But I mean, actually, the brain just going completely and not really knowing what you're talking about.
Well, I think on a more positive note, that everyone gives politicians a really hard time. But I think the fact that this was so remarkable that she had her brain freeze and she couldn't remember her facts does actually show us that most of the time our politicians are pretty competent. They're quite fluent on the telly. They may be incredibly annoying, like Michael Howard when he wouldn't answer the question. Or I remember that amazing interview you did with Alistair Campbell, where you practically had fisticuffs on air because he was talking such rubbish.
Alistair Campbell was unavailable to discuss it tonight.
Yeah, people complain about the professionalisation of politics, but, you know, if we had more amateurs in politics, this kind of thing would happen more often.
Might the public be quite forgiving it for that reason? They see someone who's human, they think, I've had moments like that myself, and they don't necessarily want someone who's completely media-trained and slick.
Well, they are quite forgiving. On Twitter, actually, interestingly, when I said I was coming on to talk about this, quite a few people said, oh, you know, be gentle on her, poor Natalie Bennett, you know, she's doing her best. I don't actually think that cuts it. I think if you're a professional, it's like if Toby and I wrote a terrible column, we'd be in trouble for that. Her job is to put
but she's a Green, really. I mean,
Green in every sense.
Do people go to the Greens for the finer points of mortgage tax relief? I suspect they don't. I think they know what the Greens stand for.
I think on a human level, I think people will be quite forgiving. It may actually end up making them like her more. But politically, I think it's quite damaging, because the Greens, after all, are proposing a massive increase in public expenditure. They're not very keen on economic growth, so they've got to figure out where the money for things like building 500,000 new homes, which is a flagship policy, are going to come from. And if that is one of your flagship policies, on the day you launch your manifesto, if you're the leader of the party, you should be expected to know where the money's coming from.
So if the public might feel sympathy, as you say, on a human level, how do you think that other prospective Green candidates around the country might feel to have heard that interview?
Well, if I was a Green candidate, I feel absolutely gutted. There they are. They've got a really good headwind in the polls. I mean, I know a lot of people who voted Lib Dem last time who are now saying they're going to vote Green. I think they were becoming a kind of left version of UKIP as UKIP are to the Tories. There were a lot of quite sensible people who were thinking about voting for them. And I think that they must now be thinking, maybe not such a great idea. It really does sound bananas. And if you're a credible Green candidate with stuff to say and you really believe in this stuff, you'll be absolutely furious that she shot the whole party in the foot.
OK, you both journalists, you've both been interviewers. What's your worst moment as an interviewer?
Oh, I was on LBC and I just got this new title, editorial director, and Ian Dale asked me what it meant. and I had a total brain freeze. Kind of went, directing editorial, you know, that was really bad. I felt like a bit of an idiot.
I once interviewed the Broadway star Nathan Lane, who just appeared in a movie called The Birdcage, and I thought, chance for a bit of a scoop here. I first asked him whether he was Jewish, and he got very put out about that and said, yes, what of it? Next question. And I said, OK, you've often played gay characters. You even did the voiceover for Timon in The Lion King, generally considered Disney's first ever animated gay character. Are you a homosexual? And he just got up and walked out. And when I got back to I got back to the office, and Graydon Carter, the editor of Vanity Fair, then my boss, said, Toby, what are you thinking? You can't ask Broadway musical stars whether they're Jewish or gay. In future, just assume they're all Jewish and all gay, OK?